You are right in time for our health check segment right here on Good Morning Kenya. And today's conversation is on joint replacement and specifically on robotics-assisted joint replacement surgery. And I am pleased to be joined by a specialist in that is Dr. Faraj Al-Kizim. He is an orthopedic surgeon and the head of robotics and joint replacement and spine surgery Metropolitan Hospital. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Pleasure too.
Let's get into this conversation. When you talk about joint replacement surgery, before we even get into the robotics bit of it, what generally are we looking at?
Joint replacement surgery, as the name suggests, is the replacement of the damaged part of a joint. So basically we meticulously remove what we call the articular part of the part of the joint that is moving, and replace it with an artificial prosthetic implant in order to address pain, because the main complaint is usually pain. And while doing so, we also take the opportunity to correct misalignments. You'll notice people with arthritis would tend to have crooked knees, knock knees or bow knees. Then we're able to also correct that alignment so that then we can restore somebody's ability to walk comfortably without pain, mobility, improve the quality of life, etc. And the benefits are so many.
All right.
Yes.
When you look at, just the situation in the country, maybe what are the most common joint replacement surgeries done here?
The most common joint replacements are knee replacements, and thereafter followed by hip replacements, and then now shoulder is also catching up, and very soon we'll start doing elbow replacements as well. But the most common is knee replacements.
The knee replacement.
Yes.
Could there be a reason why it's more common?
More degeneration to the knee. If you think about it, the body's weight is sitting on the hips and the knees. But the hip is a ball and a socket, so it has good support. The knee is just sitting like that. So more weight, more instability, more degeneration of the knee, and that now leads to degeneration of the knee, and that leads to disability. Yeah. Yes.
Does age have anything to do with that? Because there are always jokes, on, my age, the more I age, the more I feel like my knees are, have these kinds of sounds and all of that when you try to bend and all of that. Is this actually factual that age has anything to do with the knees wearing out?
Yes, it is. Osteoarthritis is more common among the elderly. In simple terminologies, we are born with the knees that are 0 mileage, and then as we continue to walk in them, they're getting more and more worn out. And eventually among the elderly, then they tend to be more damaged. However, arthritis can also occur in younger people. For example, injuries that were left unattended to, for example, fractures, intra-articular or injuries within the joint like menisci that are damaged and not attended to, then that also increases the degeneration, because these are degenerative conditions of the joints. So yes, more commonly among the elderly.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's get into the robotics bit of it. So when you talk about a robotics-assisted knee surgery or joint surgery, how exactly does that work?
So robotic-assisted joint replacement is a more advanced way of doing joint replacement. Remember, we're removing the damaged part of a joint and replacing it with an artificial part. But now we're using technology, we're using AI, we're using robotics to be able to do this better, with better precision, less human error. Basically, we're doing what we have been doing very well, even better now. So better results of the surgery. Yes.
So how does that work? With the name robotics, one may assume it's robots that are doing the work. But if you can just let us in on that, how does that generally work? Is it you as the surgeon who's working on this robot to be able to work on the patient? Is it the robot just doing its thing? Is it you keying in things for it to work better? Just let us in on that.
So robotics, I think that's a very important question, because I keep getting asked this and people fear that it's a robot that's now taking over and doing surgery. No, I think I need to emphasize that the surgeon is the one that remains in control. The surgeon is the one that is performing the surgery, but the robot now complements and improves how the surgeon is performing the surgery. So what tends to happen is that with robotics, it's a bit different from the way we used to do it conventionally. So the collaboration between the surgeon and the robotic system starts even before the surgery.
Yeah.
So there's a stage of planning where we do imaging, and then we basically almost do the surgery virtually, even before doing the surgery in the operating room. And through advanced imaging CT scans, we're able to take the image of a patient from the hip all the way to the foot and load it onto a computer software. And then now we look at alignments, and then now the surgeon is the one who's doing adjustments on those alignments, the bone cuts, because for you to do a knee replacement, remember I mentioned to you that you must do some cutting, removing of the damaged part.
Yeah.
So that bone cuts are being done even before the surgery. And placing of the implant, remember we're putting a prosthetic joint. So the placing of the implant is also done on the computer. So you're almost doing a simulation. And ultimately, once we have now the optimal results based on some parameters that we will measure, then we know now that is actually the plan. And now load it onto the robot. And on the day of the surgery, now it's again another collaboration where the surgeon is coming in, performs the surgery, exposure, opening up, etc., then does some registration of the patient's anatomy, the structures around, to the robot, so that the robot knows this is where what is. And then now the robot comes in and now does the precisional cuts as per the surgeon's instructions. So that now it's steady, because conventionally we'd do a bone cut freehand, of course guided by some instruments called jigs, but you're holding what is cutting, what is known as an oscillating saw freehand, but now the robot is now doing the cuts for you accurately, almost like 3D printing kind of thing. So it's doing the bone cuts for you more accurately to sub-millimeter precision. You know, because you're taking measurements in millimeters and in degrees. So then now once we have that accuracy, the implant sits nearly perfectly, if not perfectly. So that now that enhances the outcome. Then there's the aspect of safety and predictability, where during the surgery we're able to communicate with the robot and measure certain parameters and compare them to some norms, so that we know if this is being done well. Now that's called real-time feedback. So that now you're almost predicting what the outcome is going to be like. Whereas conventionally it was, you know, we deal with things as we're attending to the surgery. So it's more of enhancing planning, enhancing precision, enhancing predictability, what I like to call the 3 Ps that now the robot is offering. So it's more of a collaboration and a tool that enhances what we are doing well to do better, and not that the robot is actually doing the surgery for you. Yes.
You're still doing the surgery, just
Most
that,
definitely.
you know, the robot is being used to ensure that precision.
Correct. Precision, there's an increased demand and appetite for precision in all sectors. Right now people are using AI to enhance and improve on how they're doing things. So medicine is not an exception, and surgery is also not an exception. Yes.
I can imagine just what that has done generally to when it comes to matters orthopedic and orthopedic robotics in generally. Just what is this advancement doing to that bit of medicine?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, the bone cuts are more accurate in orthopedics. How you align angles, physics is everything. A single degree makes a big difference on how the person walks. And if we can be able to predict and correct a single degree, or even a decimal of a degree, then we're likely to get better results.
No, I know you've mentioned some differences as you were explaining what robotics assisted joint replacement surgery is compared to the conventional way of doing it. Maybe are there other major differences between these two?
Yeah, I mean, the planning is a major part in the differences. With conventional, we would do x-rays, mostly of just the knee, and decide on where to focus efforts and correct, but not to alignment of the whole limb. With robotic, we're looking from the hip all the way to the foot, and looking at the whole alignment of the limb and how it's going to have an effect. The planning part of it, of course, now that's what I say, the simulation versus now conventionally doing surgery and addressing matters as we progress. And then, of course, there is also the safety aspect. The robot offers additional safety, because what tends to happen conventionally is as the bone cuts are being done, now the bone cuts I'm referring to cutting of the damaged joint, but it has to be done in a very specific way, in a specific angle, so that the implant sits nicely. As that is happening, there tends to be some injury of the tissues around the bone. Remember, there are muscles there, there are ligaments there. Of course, they're protected. There are ways in which we protect them, but there will be some bruising here and there. But the robot doesn't do that. It sticks to the bone. In fact, it maintains some small barrier of bone, which now the surgeon can come and remove manually. So that enhances the safety, enhances pain after surgery, because now with less soft tissue, what I'm referring to, the muscles and capsule and everything injury, the less the pain after, the faster the recovery, and of course the shorter the hospital stay, and the benefits are so many. Yes.
What kind of patients are, or rather qualify for this kind of surgery? Is it generally for every kind of patient, or do we have specific patients who qualify for this and other patients that you would rather have them do the conventional way of things? Of
surgery. Yeah, generally speaking, most patients that qualify for joint replacement surgery would qualify for robotic-assisted joint replacement surgery. However, there are some patients, as you mentioned. For example, there's some patients that come with such severe deformities and damage that they require more specialized implants. For example, the hinged joints, which the robot may not be compatible with those specialized implants. There may be some patients who have had distorted anatomy. Maybe they had infections in the joints before, and the anatomy is more distorted because the robot tends to rely on normal anatomy and then now makes reference to the abnormal that it finds there. But then the deformity can, the distortion can be so severe that we may opt to do it conventionally. Some patients may have very soft bones, osteoporosis, that the bones are so soft that you want to give it that human touch or human care, and give it a bit more careful, otherwise you may get fractures, you may cut too much and such things. Or there are some pins that we use in robotics to be able to do what is known as optical navigation, where the robot is able to communicate with the patient in terms of the anatomy and know where what is. And those pins, you may fear that either they will run loose or they may cause a fracture. So very soft bones, then we actually would opt to do conventionally. But generally speaking, for the average population that qualifies for joint replacements, then they would also qualify for robotic replacement surgery.
All right. You mentioned something to do with recovery, and you say that the recovery is actually quicker for someone who's gone the robotic assisted way of surgery. How is this, or how does this happen? How comes the recovery period of this person could be, shorter than someone who's done the conventional surgery?
Yeah, well, there are several aspects. One I mentioned earlier about the soft tissue. So if there is less injury to any tissues that are not bone, then less pain, and person can be able to recover faster and get back to their activities of daily living even faster. So mostly the soft tissue aspect of it, and then also the implant itself. Remember, we're putting in an artificial joint. How it sits and that accuracy makes a difference in how faster one is able to walk. Because while doing the surgery, there is what we call gap checks and soft tissue balancing, which conventionally there are manual ways of checking, but not to that much precision. So if you can do it accurately, then you find that the joint after surgery tends to be more stable, to be able to walk faster and basically recover faster. Yes.
Yeah. When you look at now pain levels, does it make a difference when it comes to one's pain levels?
Yes. Yes. Soft tissue I mentioned, it's a major contributor to pain after surgery. And when you talk to somebody who's had surgery, any type of surgery, they will tell you, I'm feeling better, lakini kidonda kinauma, where I had the surgery done. So soft tissues actually contribute majorly to pain, and the less the injury to the soft tissues, then the less the pain after surgery.
Yeah. So someone would say almost everything has its sides effects and has its risks and all of that. So what would you say are some of the risks associated with this kind of surgery, which is robotic assisted?
Well, I mean, I think, yes, robotics is new. here in Kenya, in the country. We have the first surgical robot in Metropolitan Hospital. So, however, it is not new in other parts of the world.
Okay.
They have been existing for some time. People have used it for quite some time. They have been through many safety checks and adjustments and calibrations, etc., to provide safety. So I would probably say that the robotics is offering more safety as opposed to otherwise. However, just like any gadget, we'll probably imagine theoretically that indeed a machine can break down.
Yeah.
All right, and maybe there can be power fluctuations and power goes off and then the robot just switches off slowly and you hear you kind of sound, isn't it? But there are also corrective or other precautions that are in place. Our robot, for example, has a power backup system. So in case of power blackouts or any failures, then it should be able to continue. And if the whole robot itself fails, then we can always switch back to conventional surgery. So we always go in as a double setup.
Okay.
And if at any stage the robot is not able to continue, we just switch back and continue so that it ensures safety for the patient and the patient is not exposed to any such risks. Yeah.
You've mentioned it's the first one is that the first one in the country, the one at Metropolitan, or that's the first one in the hospital? And do we have enough of them in the country as at now?
It's not the first one in the country.
Okay.
It's the first one in East and Central Africa.
Wow.
In the region.
Okay.
Not just the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the first one in East and Central Africa. So it's fairly new here.
The very first one.
Yeah.
Number one. And as of now, not only the first, but the only one. Yes.
The only one as we speak.
That's it. Exactly.
Okay, so when you say it's the only one, I want to get into the cost bit of it because I can only imagine now the demand. But before I even get into the cost of it, maybe how many successful surgeries have been done through that in the country?
In the country, I can only refer to the ones we've done in Metropolitan because it's the only one either way. And we recently installed it and procured it. So we're still setting up systems to get it now routinely running as a service. However, we have already done two very successful cases.
Okay.
A patient who came from Kakamega, another one from, I believe, Siaya. And we performed the surgeries and they are actually doing very well. We're still following them up because they are case studies for us and they're actually doing very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, since it's fairly new in the country, I can imagine maybe what are some of the fears that maybe the patients come in with before getting to undergo that kind of surgery in that kind of way?
Yeah, I think there's always the fear of the unknown, the fear of new technology, the fear of a machine operating, and that misconception that now it's a robot taking over. Because those patients, of course, came to me for the usual conventional. They came with a problem in conventional, and then I basically offered them robotic joint replacements. So they feared that it's a machine that's going to operate on them. However, when we explained to them the exact details of how it does it, and of course, they were not conversed into it. They were given it as an option and they were allowed to opt out any time, up to even the actual day of surgery. They opted for the robotics. And the fear is real generally, but I think once things are clarified, then it settles. And as I mentioned, there are places in the world where this is routine work now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk matters the cost now. Just how costly is this surgery?
Of course, it would be more expensive than conventional surgeries. However, cost varies with facilities that the surgery is being performed. Cost will vary with the implant that is being used. So there are many variables that affect cost of surgery. However, if I'm to refer to Metropolitan itself, I think the model that we are working with is to keep surgery, and not just robotics, even conventional, affordable to the masses, so that we're able to make healthcare more accessible to the majority of people. And I wouldn't say it's very costly because the cost of robotics in Metropolitan is still lower than the cost of conventional in some hospitals that we know of in Kenya. So I wouldn't say it's too costly.
Yeah. Do insurances like, you know, the common one in the country, SHA, does it cover that?
As of now, no,
Okay.
because of course it's new and we are the pioneers. Insurances tend to cover joint replacement or knee replacements per the packages that they are used to. However, as a hospital, we are engaging with insurances as well as SHA to demonstrate to them that this is something that will be of great benefit in the long run, so that they can also be able to now start develop packages specifically for robotics, which then will be a higher package, and now that becomes less burden on the patient.
So that is something that is still in the works, and
It's an ongoing.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. Those are the challenges as well as the benefits of being the pioneers. Yes. So we are now still engaging with them, and I think the future is bright.
The future is bright.
Definitely.
All right. Maybe what are some of the lifestyle changes that would help or that can help patients? You know, the best that can help patients rather get to experience long-term, success and long-term results.
I think one general rule is healthy living. Healthy living, active lifestyle generally will reduce the need for surgery, and also, of course, now the long-term effect of it. Weight is a major problem when it comes to joints, because it's obvious. I mean, the joint is a mechanical axis through which all the weight of the body is going through.
Yeah.
And the more the weight, the more the wear and tear. And that will, of course, now lead to a higher uptake for surgery, and also less survivorship of now the joint that has been done. And of course, now if we are to refer to post-operatively, the better the surgery is done, the longer the survivorship. Because when it is aligned in the axis or in the correct axes, then the body's distribution is well distributed on the implant, and it wears off less, and also apart from wear, it also loosens less and tends to serve much longer. And I think that is what we're trying to address with the robotic surgery. Yeah.
As we almost come to a conclusion of our conversation today, maybe have you handled a severe case? You've mentioned you've done two.
Yes.
Is there one that you can mention that was quite severe?
Yeah, one of the two patients was actually suffering from rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Basically, that means the immune system, what is supposed to be protecting you from diseases and infections, acting against yourself.
Okay.
So rheumatoid arthritis causes destruction of joints, and this particular lady had destruction of almost all the joints, major joints in her body, and she had to have the first knee replacement done 3 years ago conventionally, and the other knee was quite severely damaged. And actually she's quite happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the robotics did a good job.
I think so.
Yeah.
The surgeons did a good job with the robotics.
Okay. Thanks for the correction. Now we need to finalize on the conversation. What would be your final remarks on matters robotics when it comes to orthopedics?
I think the population needs to be aware that there is help, services are available. I would say we don't need to remain in pain. People who are suffering from osteoarthritis, people who are suffering from pain of the joints, don't need to endure pain. They don't need to persevere. Seek medical attention. Help is available, and even better, come over to Metropolitan. We're really good at what we do, and now with robotics, we're even better. Oh yeah.
When it comes to health checkups, we are told to always go for our checkups for this, for that, for this other one. Would you maybe recommend that, we make it routine to also look after our joints, or go for checkups for our joints, probably the knees, the hip, or this is something that you just need to get to the hospital when it's giving you issues?
Most definitely. I think it's important to remain healthy and do the necessary checks for a person to remain healthy and live a healthy life. However, specifically to joints, we shouldn't ignore pain. We, as Africans, tend to persevere pain for various reasons, maybe financial or maybe just convenience. any symptoms in joints, pain, locking of the joints. Sometimes you hear somebody telling you, I've been living with a locking joint for the last several years. Clicking sounds and such things could simply mean something within joint is not normal, maybe a meniscal injury. Yesterday I did a repair of a meniscus, which is within the joint, that when not addressed on time, increases the rate at which the joint is denatured or degenerated. So something simple can be corrected. For example, through arthroscopic surgery, just put a camera over there and just repair the meniscus, and it saves the entire joint. But once it comes at a more advanced stage, then we can't even offer arthroscopic surgery, and we are now forced to replace a joint. Yeah. So healthy living and also joint health is important.
Yeah, and that's not ignoring pain.
Correct.
All right. Thank you so much for just letting us in on the information around robotics. I am sure that our viewers have gotten to learn just as much as I have from this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor.
All right. This is where we get to end this conversation, as well as get to end Good Morning Kenya for today.